Hello and welcome to another episode of the A-10 Insider Podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. Rob Dauster, Matt McCall, Jeff Goodman, and guys, it is officially bracket season. The conference tournaments begin on the power conference tournaments begin on Tuesday. The A-10 tournament in DC this year will be starting on Wednesday. We got first round action, 3 games: Davidson, Richmond, Rhode Island, Fordham, UMass, and LaSalle. And there's a lot at stake here. And I guess the biggest storyline for me when it comes to this tournament is are we playing for the inevitable automatic bid and VCU's on the bubble? Like, is that how this is going to play out? And what does VCU need to do in this event, if anything, to be able to not be an automatic bid and still find their way into the dance? Like that's the big thing.
Not lose its first game, right? Don't lose to the winner of St. Bonaventure and Duquesne, or else you're probably in trouble. You're probably in trouble. I think you've got to get at least one win to solidify your at-large status. And I think the best case scenario for the A-10 is VCU gets to the title game and loses to whoever. I don't even think it matters. You just want to get 2 bids locked in. Obviously, the one that probably makes the most sense is Dayton at this point because they're rolling. So a Dayton VCU title game where the Flyers win, I think is the scenario that the A-10 should be pulling for.
I totally agree with Jeff in the sense of, too, if Dayton gets to the finals, let's just flip it. And let's say Dayton gets to the finals and they play VCU. It'll be very interesting to see, can Dayton get in? And the reason I'll say this is you look at how they played in Maui. And out in Maui, Dayton averaged 85 points per game. They went toe-to-toe with Iowa State. They should have beaten North Carolina, and they beat UConn. Before Maui, they have a win over Northwestern. Coming out of Maui, they beat Marquette. They played that game the other night against VCU like that team that played out in Maui. The ball was moving. They were unselfish. I think they had 21 assists in the game. They had 5 guys in double figures. Like, that's the team that we were hoping we would see all year. So with that being said, it'll be interesting because I know some teams or some people have, them like creeping up in terms of the bubble conversation. If they get to the finals, that means they will have knocked off most likely St. Joe's. They will have knocked off George Mason. So they get those 2 wins and play against VCU. Jeff, I'm not saying they're a lock to get in, but I'm saying there's a chance. There's a chance.
And here's the thing. Like that's 2 more quad 2 wins if they win those 2 games like you just referenced, Matt. And if that happens, you'd be sitting here with a situation where they would be, assuming they lose to VCU in the final, right? They would be 3-4 in quad 1. They'd be 6-5 in quad 2. And you got that albatross, right? That anchor that lost at UMass. But beyond that, this is a resume that I think is better than people realize. You beat Marquette at home. You beat UConn on a neutral, which is a quad 1 win. And UConn's creeping up towards that top 30 mark. If UConn can get into the top 30, that becomes a quad 1A win. You won at VCU, which is your best win on the season. Like they're probably not in right now because the metrics are a little bit lower than you would like.
Correct. But it's close.
They got a puncher's chance. I think the best case scenario for the A-10 is a VCU Dayton title game, right? That's got to be it. Or VCU loses to Loyola. VCU still has enough to be able to be an at-large bid, even if it is going to Dayton.
I'd be worried. I'd be worried if they lose to Loyola. I'd still be concerned. I'd be very concerned if they lose their first game. I'd still be concerned if they lose to Loyola because we're not taking into account bid stealers here. Teams that can get hot in other conference tournaments with resume wins, a lot of them on the table. So
that's the biggest thing. It's not the bid thieves. It's that every other league. I mean, Arkansas is going to play 5 games in 5 days, and every single one of them is going to be a quad 1 game.
Same with Oklahoma.
Crazy, by the way.
Right. Same with Oklahoma, right? They're going to play, they got the same opportunities. Texas, they've got those opportunities. They're outside the field right now, but they can make up ground if they win, 2 or 3 games.
I'm anti that, by the way. Look, I'm going to plant my flag in the sand right here and say that there is 100% with every fiber of my being. Give me VCU in the tournament over any of those
I think they beat them.
the schlock at the
I
bottom
think
of
they beat them.
the SEC.
If they're in an 11 versus
I want
11
to see
matchup
it.
in Dayton, I think they beat one of those teams.
Those are the ones I want to see. Like, I love that argument. I love the argument. I think that's the big debate always is, the VCUs, obviously, a team out of the Mountain West. It could be Colorado State, somebody like that. I want to see those teams go up against the 14th place team in the SEC and kick their ass.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it happens. One, because let's just say they go to Dayton. Okay, they're in the first four, whatever it may be. How many times have we seen the first four where a team is really kind of checked out? And maybe from a BCS level, they're just kind of checked out.
Mhm.
And VCU, if they're in the first four, Ryan Odom coach VCU team, that team's going up there and competing. That team will be ready to play. Like I think, I think they beat them. If they're in that game against an
VCU likes
SEC,
the first four, man. VCU likes the first four.
Think?
They went first four to Final Four.
What
first
makes you
four to
say
Final
that?
Four.
They went first four to Final Four. They did. They did back in 2011. They went first four to Final Four.
I'm kidding you, dumbass. I'm kidding.
So, well, I see you're not very good with history, so sometimes I got to remind you. Now that Twitter is down as we record this, I figured that Goodman has completely lost every level of sanity that he has. Like he can't
This is
function.
awful.
He can't function without Twitter.
It's a tough existence. I won't lie. It's a tough existence.
The last thing I'll just say about VCU is if I am Ryan Odom, and let's just say like if they happen to end on the wrong side of the bubble, I'm coming for Earl Grant and I'm coming for Jim Larinaga because VCU would not be on the wrong side of the bubble if BC wasn't a sub 200 net team and Miami wasn't a sub 250 net team. And if Shaheen Holloway had found a way to be able to win more than 2 games against Seton Hall, Seton Hall being a quad 4 loss is
no, I mean, that's the problem. That's the problem, guys. The Seton Hall loss, I was there for it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those that if they don't get in, that's like the
point
one.
back to it. That's the one you have to look yourself in the mirror at. There's no question.
Yep. All right, let's talk about how this bracket is going to play out. I think for me, the single most interesting game when you like early on in this tournament, before you kind of get to the semifinals and the finals, to me, it is St. Joe's and Dayton. I think those are, and McCall, tell me if I'm crazy here, but I think those are the 2 most talented teams that are in this conference. And I think that on paper, if you're just kind of stacking up rosters, I would say that those are the 2 rosters that I would say you have the most NBA potential on those 2 rosters right there. And to see them play in a quarterfinal game on Peacock at 7:30 in DC is something that I think will be that'll be appointment television.
I mean, you could make a case St. Louis just in terms of their starting 5. They're just not very deep at all. But I agree with you just in terms of
Robbie Avila is the opposite of talent.
What do you mean? That's harsh.
Roster versus roster. Going into the LaSalle game on Saturday, I was picking St. Joe's to win this tournament. I was picking them because of how they were playing. Eric Reynolds, Xavier Brown, and Fleming, they were trending in the right direction. I don't know if they probably couldn't have known that they didn't have a double bye chance. There's no way. Some things still had to play out. Even with the Dayton win, they still had a chance to get a double bye, and then it ended on Saturday, even before they lost, I believe. So the game at the end of the day really didn't mean anything. Here's the other piece, too. Was Fran Dunphy really going to lose his last game in the regular season at home in John Glazier Arena, the arena he helped build? The basketball gods were making sure that LaSalle won that game because of the human being that Fran Dunphy is. That's the truth. With that being said,
do you have faith though? Do you have confidence that St. Joe's can run off 4 in a row? Do you have confidence in that?
They just won 5 in a row.
I know, but in the tournament, I'm just saying, like this team has kind of been over the last few years, like up and down. You don't know what to expect. As you say, Rob, they have all the talent in the world. I just want to see some consistency, and I know they're playing well now, but there's 3 or 4 other teams I have more confidence in being able to run out 4 in a row here.
Look,
Yeah,
if Dayton's going to play the way that they did against VCU and Dayton's going to look like the team that we saw back in November, they're not. St. Joe's is not beating Dayton. They're not. But
nobody's if
again,
St. Joe's plays like they did at VCU.
Dayton has gone through these offensive
Mhm.
lulls at time. I mean, they've scored in the 50s at times this year, where you're just sitting here scratching your head saying, like, this does not look like the team that beat UConn. This does not look like the team that beat Marquette. So I just think that if we're seeing Dayton get back to their old form and Coach Grant's kind of letting them loose a little bit, especially playing with more pace on the offensive end of the floor. And I think he's also in the point where it's like with Posh Alexander, it's if you're not playing and you're not going to be about the things that we're about right now, then you got to sit down, right? I mean, he only played 10 minutes against VCU. If he's not giving them something, Coach Grant has to be okay with parking him. Like, I don't
Mhm.
care what they paid him in NIL. I don't care. Like, this is winning time. Like, you're trying to get to the tournament. So
Mhm.
if there's someone that's pulling you back, park them. Park them right on the bench. And in this team, again, they look like the team that we saw, scoring 79 points. They shot 39% from the 3-point line. They did have 18 assists in the game. They had 5 guys averaging double or got in double figures, led by Javon Bennett. So if they're going to look like they did against VCU, I don't think St. Joe's is beating them. But wouldn't be surprised when St. Joe's starts playing with that pace and the ball is flown up the floor and the cutting and the moving and Fleming knocking down
When they're
threes
sharing the
and they have an
ball,
inside presence.
when they're sharing the ball and moving the ball, there might not be a better team in the league. But again, sometimes they go into AAU mode.
Mhm.
Yes,
So the team that we're all forgetting about here is George Mason. They spent the majority of the season as the team that was all alone in first place. They ended up tying with VCU for the A-10 regular season
amazing,
championship. Best defense in the conference, one of the best defenses in America. Terrific coaching job all year from Tony Skinn. And
amazing.
it feels like we're just going to sit here like we are what, like 15 minutes into this podcast, and we still haven't really mentioned George Mason. I think the world of them. And the thing that makes me feel confident in them having a chance is uh, one, I think refs have kind of acclimated to Katie Johnson, who I believe led America in technical fouls this year, which is maybe my favorite stat in the history of Atlantic 10 basketball. I love Katie. But the other part of it is they have high major guys that are high major bucket getters on that roster. And I think they have got it's a little bit of St. John's in the sense for me, Matt, where I don't know if they have the greatest offense overall, but I believe that they have guys that can get you a basket when you need a basket at the end of a game.
What is with these Auburn guys in technical fouls? Like, what is going on? Okay, like
Because Bruce Pearl lets him go.
like what is the problem
Yeah,
with
he
these
lets him
guys?
be.
Okay, technical fouls and costing games. Look, Jalen Haynes, big slime, I think is his nickname. He has
It
been a
is.
force to be reckoned with on the inside. Arguably the best nickname in college basketball. And they guard. They defend. They clamp you up. The biggest question will be if they run into a team that starts to get a little bit hot from behind a 3-point line, can they keep up offensively? But in terms of how they defend at the level at which they defend, you point back to that Duquesne loss, they gave up 85 points. So if the 3-point line comes into play in a game, that would be my only concern. But I love watching Haynes play. I mean, he
Mhm.
demands the ball on the inside of the paint. I think they got to give it to him more. For a team, what are they going to do with him? Are they going to double team him and get the ball out of his hands? Then you're susceptible to giving up 3-point shots. But yeah, A-10 Coach of the Year. What a remarkable job Tony Skinn is doing. His team reflects his personality. That's who he was as a player. He's just tough, hard-nosed, gritty, physical guard, and that's the way they play.
Yeah,
Jeff?
I mean, listen, we've overlooked them because I don't think they got a lot of respect coming into the year, and what Tony Skinn has done with this program is amazing. Kim English was good. Tony Skinn's been great,
Great.
uh, and again, he's got some transfers that have enabled him right away. And I think what he's done is get these guys to play together quickly here. And like you said, Matt, kind of his mentality, right? The toughness that he played with, kind of, bringing that back. And it's hard to do when you bring in new faces like you do every year now with the portal. And just the way the landscape has changed with college basketball. To be able to do it that quickly, I thought was really impressive this year. But Haynes has been great. Maddox has been great. Like you said, KD gives him that toughness, that chip, and again, that guy who's played at the highest level and was productive at the highest level.
Yeah.
Yep. The last one that I want to touch on before we can kind of go through and make some picks and predictions here is St. Louis. Uh, They dealt with some injuries early on. They've dealt with some inconsistency throughout A-10 play. I think if Josh Schertz was going to be honest with you, he would say that he was a little bit underwhelmed with kind of the way that this season has gone for them. They're
But he had the injuries, though. It was the
yeah.
injury.
No, for sure it was the injuries, but still, you end up as the 5 seed. You don't get the
It's the
double
injuries,
bye.
and then Hughes leaves the team in the middle of the season.
Yeah,
He's
that
like, I'm
didn't
out.
help.
When
That
you're
didn't
already
help.
thin.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that didn't help. But you're the 5 seed, which means you get Davidson to Richmond in the first round, and then you draw a Loyola team who are dealing. They've dealt with their own injury problems this year, but Drew has kind of figured this thing out of late and found a way to be able to operate without who was the point guard that tore his ACL? Why am I blanking on his name for Loyola? Um, I'll look it up, but Loyola lost their starting point guard, and Drew's been able to kind of figure this thing out, headlined by Miles Rubin. What do you make of this St. Louis team, Matt, and what are their chances of being able to kind of make a run here?
At one point in time, they had three guys averaging over 18 and a half points per game. They were the only program in the country to have that. Those three guys are still in the lineup in Swope, Avila, and Gibson Jimerson, who's made more threes than anyone in the history of the Atlantic 10.
Mhm.
Um,
It was Justin Moore, by the way, the name that I
Justin
couldn't
Moore.
come up with. Sorry.
They're dangerous. And yes, there's been some inconsistencies, but I think that, back to Goodman's point, the injuries, Larry Hughes leaving the team in the middle of the season, it's like you're still trying to figure out your team and your roster. He's got five guys that are really good that are going to play the bulk of the minutes. And then, much like the Maryland team, they really don't have anything coming off the bench that's can have a huge impact. So can you win 4 games in 4 days? With that scenario. That's tough. That's difficult.
They needed the double bye.
They needed the double bye.
Mhm.
But, Loyola Chicago to me is playing better than anybody in the conference. I mean, you look at what they did in Amherst over the weekend. I mean, that game was a complete blowout. I think they were up 30 at one point in time. So that team is peaking and peaking at the right time. That'll be a good matchup, assuming St. Louis can get past either Davidson or Richmond, because I don't think anybody's playing better than Loyola Chicago right now.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. That'll be a good game. If we get that game and then the winner gets hopefully VCU, I think that'll be, I'd love to see that one, like VCU against either one of St. Louis or Loyola, would be a hell of a semifinal matchup. And then, to me on the other side, like if you're getting that George Mason Dayton matchup or even St. Joe's, either one of them, I just think you want some intrigue as you move forward here, certainly with a potential bid stealer, but you need VCU and Dayton to move forward as far as they can as well.
But Loyola Chicago too, Rob, to put a bow on this one is like, hey, look, that Jaden Dawson, I mean, he's a first team all league. You go back to that St. Louis game. He had 26 in that game, 6 of 9 from the 3-point line. I don't remember exactly how many threes he made against UMass over the weekend, but he was bopping them in. I love the pace at which they play. I said this in studio at halftime during the UMass Loyola game. They do a great job to me of in transition, not dribbling the ball up the floor. The ball is always advanced off the pass. If someone in front of them has an advantage, they get the thing up there and they get it up fast. So I just think they're playing as good, if not better, than anybody. That St. Louis game will be a test. Can, St. Louis find something down deep inside, led by Swope and Gibson Jimerson and Robbie Avila? Like, can they find something there to make a push at this thing? Because with everything they've dealt with, the season, I don't want to say it's been a disappointment, but it's been a year where you're like, this team probably didn't reach its potential because of the injuries and different things that have happened.
Mhm. Yep, I agree. All right, let's get into some official picks, some official predictions. Um, I want let's start with this. Give me one team that plays on Wednesday that you think has the best chance to be able to make it to, I guess, the quarterfinals on Friday. Is that right? Am I doing the math right? Yes. The quarterfinals on Friday. Who's the one team that plays on Wednesday with a chance to be able to make a little bit of a run here? Anyone?
Rhode Island. I'm going Rhode Island with this one. Again, I think Fordham. I don't want to say they packed it in completely, but they haven't been good. So I think Rhode Island's got a great first round matchup. And then who knows against GW? Caputo's done a great job this year dealing with injuries of his own. They've won 20 games, but I think Rhode Island GW is a game that the Rams can win, could win, and could win too there.
Wow, I can't believe I mean, UMass last year in the A-10. Are they going to play inspired? Are they going to dig down deep before they go to the MAC? Are they going to do it? I'm with Jeff. I love Coach Martin, but I think the road to Friday for Rhode Island, I don't want to say it's easier than any of these other teams, but GW's had some up and downs this year. I mean, that's a game, with Deshaun Shepherd that Rhode Island can win. I mean, they could go in there and find a way to beat GW in the second round of the tournament. I just think their path is a little bit easier to get to Friday than some of these other teams.
Yep. I was going to go with URI as well, but since I don't want to have Chris Caputo come in for our necks for all of us saying that he's going to lose to URI, I'm going to go with UMass, or as Goodman likes to call it, UMass.
That's how you say it. I mean,
UMass.
yeah, you're supposed to say it that way. That's if you go up there, that's how everybody says it.
UMass.
I don't think Frank Martin says it that way.
It's UMass.
I never say it that way.
You just roll it together.
UMass.
UMass. It's just UMass.
Yeah, I'm going to take him to beat LaSalle, and then St. Joe's is the up and down team, right? And they're as liable as anyone to put up a stinker. So I'm going to take.
I mean, Frank Martin could get that game. Could he get that game in the 50s and have a chance, right?
I mean, Rasul Diggins led the conference in scoring. Now he was awful against Loyola Chicago. I think he started off like 0 of 9. I mean, they made one. I think they were 1 for 18 or 1 for 20 from the 3-point line. So. They need Diggins to play. I mean, in order for them to win any of these games in this tournament, like Diggins has to show up.
Mm-hmm. All right. Give me your championship game and your winner from the championship game. Who you got, Matt?
I'm going to go with what we kind of said needs to happen for the league. I really wanted to put St. Joe's in the championship, but after the egg they laid against LaSalle, it's hard for me to do that because that's the taste we still have. Seeing that on Saturday, watching what Dayton did at BCU the other night was really impressive, and that's what we've been waiting on. We've been waiting to see that again. That's what we saw versus Marquette. That's what we saw in Maui. So maybe Coach Grant found something there with that group late in the year, which is good. And then as long as Russell's back in the lineup for VCU, he didn't play the other night. He had that ankle injury, their point guard. They got to get him back out there, assuming that he's playing. I like the VCU Dayton finale in Washington, D.C. on Sunday.
Who's winning? Dayton's winning?
VCU.
VCU's winning? Okay.
I have the same game, but the reverse. I have Dayton winning the whole thing. I have Dayton winning the whole thing.
I just couldn't be the Anthony Grant homer. I mean, the relationship that we have. And
you are.
You were going to throw that out. You love Coach Grant. I do love Coach Grant. He offered me my first job. That's my guy. So I just didn't want to be the homer.
You can be a homer. There's nothing wrong with being a homer. Some of us picked UConn to win the Big East tournament this year. McCall, you be as big of a homer as you want. You're allowed to. I give you.
Hey, McCall, okay? Homering is hard.
Homering's hard. Homering is hard.
That's what your softball teammates say to you, Goodman. I'm gonna go a little bit off script here. When I made these picks on the DTF pod about 2 hours ago, I went with St. Joe's. But the more that I've thought about it, right, this tournament's getting played in DC. There is a team located just outside of Washington, D.C. that has played in tournament games in this building before and had a lot of success in tournament games in this building before. The George Mason Patriots, when they made the Final Four in 2006, they did it by beating UConn in, I don't even know what it was called. It's called the Cap One Center now. I don't know what it was called.
I was there. I forget what it was
called.
The
MCI Center? Was it the Verizon Center? Was it? It was
like
something.
That.
It was. It's the big phone booth, whatever it is.
Some type of telephone company.
It's some kind of telephone company. But George Mason is going to beat GW. Then they're going to beat Dayton, and then they are going to beat VCU in a battle for supremacy of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're going to have on one side Doc Nicks and the Green Machine. On the other side, we're going to have the Peppers. There's going to be 18,000 VCU and George Mason fans. It's going to be half green. It's going to be half gold. And Tony Skinn is going to be cutting down nets in that building once again. George Mason Patriots, man. They're getting the automatic bid. 2 bid A-10.
It's wide open. I mean, that's the good thing. There's a bunch of teams that can win it. That's what's going to make it so much fun to watch. And, I can't wait. I can't wait.
And if it's not a 2-bid A-10, we riot. Goodman.
Start tuning in on Wednesday. You'll see a familiar face up there on the USA Network. We got bridge shows. We got half times. We got all kinds of stuff going on for NBC. So you may see a familiar face on Wednesday.
Jeff? Who is it? John Fanta? Who?
I don't know. Terrence Oglesby?
Is Robbie Hummel slumming it with
Josh Pastner?
Oh, coach.
Is Jordan Cornette. My God, Jordan Cornette, right? Is that who it's going to be?
We need more guest appearances by Cornette. We got to get him on the field.
I know. Where's Cornette been? Tell him he's got to jump on at some point here.
We do. Listen, guys, this has been fun. Matt, enjoy the time. I know you love this event. I know you love the A-10, and it's always fun too.
What's your record in the A-10 tournament, McCall? By the way,
set a record for points. We scored the most points in an A-10 tournament game, 99.
Hey,
wow,
that's Goodman.
Hey, just so McCall, just so you know,
98.
No, we won the game. I won a game in that tournament when I wasn't even cut. When I was fired, I didn't have a job. I was unemployed, and I won a game in that tournament. Goodman, come on.
Goodman, you know what's funny about this? My first ever appearance on national television in a studio setting was watching Matt McCall go and shake Mike Rhodes' hands when we were all supposed to be social distancing about 5 minutes after the A-10 tournament got canceled. And
one of the more surreal experiences ever.
In an empty gym being told you're not allowed to play because the world's about to shut down.
The world's about to shut down. Mike Rhodes, this is when you still wore suits. It was the 8-9 game. It was Trey Mitchell in his freshman year. We were trending in the right direction at the end of that season. And I'll never forget, Rhodes walks over to me and goes, should me and you play one-on-one in our suits to give some of these fans something to cheer for? And then we go to the press conference, and the whole world's watching us. It's like us in the Big East tournament. And I'll never forget my wife texting me because Mike Rhodes was coughing during the press conference. And my wife's like, move away from him. And now here we are, boys.
And now here we are. Matt, great to see you. Goodman, I'm just glad that you finally turned the light on in your kitchen. It's been,
I think Twitter's working, Goodman, so you're good.
Yeah, Twitter's working. You're back. So you go tweet. Go tweet. We got to go.